met a homeless man on the street. He passed away in a warehouse fire that was deliberately lit.
I was raped.
Abused by two grossly inoffensive staff members, discrimination and vilification towards people with disabilities.
The record is falsified, evidence is removed.
It was a betrayal, it was an injustice of social equality, it was an injustice of gender equality, it was just an injustice of everything.
Green, yep. And so, yeah.
So, tell me your name again.
Peter Parker.
No, what's your name?
He's not Spider-Man. He's not Spider-Man.
Adam McGrath.
Adam.
You're right.
No.
We'll go straight in there.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready.
Hello and welcome to the Injustice series. I'm Janelle De Silva and today we're talking about stories of injustice. We're joined here by Adam, Sarah and Adele. Welcome.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Adam's is a story no parent ever wishes to tell, one that affects the most vulnerable and meanwhile upholds the supposed justice system which fails to hold the guilty accountable. What's worse is in his time of struggle, the conscience of the whole world seemed to be outweighed by simple convenience, and so morality dies in apathy. Adam shares his tale of indifference, inadequacy and injustice now. Adam, tell me what has brought you to our discussion panel today.
Well, how do you tell the most powerful being in the universe he made the wrong decision?
Tell me about him.
Well, had a young bloke and he got run down by an ice-affected driver. He got off scot-free. The young bloke's lying in a grave. But yet, still to this day, he's in Queensland counting all his Tass Lotto winnings, so...
Firstly, my condolences to you, Adam, for the loss of your son. That's such terrible circumstances. Can you please explain for us what happened with the legal proceedings in order for him to be, as you say, free today?
Well, how would you say it? Got run over at the school, plenty of witnesses around, everything like that, all these parents going to school and all that. And by the time the police arrived to the scene, everybody had forgotten what colour car it was, what the number plate was, who was driving. Everybody had forgotten that by the time the police arrived, so... and when you drive away from an accident, well, how can somebody find you?
Can you tell me, Adam, a time frame? When did this happen?
Oh, well, how would you say it? I was a single father, looking after him, trying to raise him on my own, doing the right thing. Going to work every day, because in those days, how would you say it? You're a single dad and the government looks down upon you because you're a male. What are you doing with a kid? Why are you a single father? So I had to go and get a job. So trying to work every day, trying to raise a kid at the end of the day, come home at the end of the day, and lo and behold, you get a phone call saying your young bloke's just been killed. Can you come up to school? And and can you come up and identify, make sure it's your son? And I said, yeah, no worries. And yeah, lo and behold, it was him, riding his bike across the school crossing. And as the school lady with the lollipop lady said, I tried to stop, but a car just come straight through and knocked him over, and they didn't even stop, they didn't even look, they just kept on going. And that's why I said, didn't anybody see anything? Anybody around here see anything? And because of the way it is and the particular town it is, nobody sees anything. Nobody knows nothing. When you're live out in the bush, out in a country town, how can I say it? Our taxes aren't as important as the big city people's taxes. So, yeah, we don't really matter when it comes to massive police things and all that, and investigations. We don't really matter. That's my views anyway.
I think it's just, it's so imperative that you share this story.
Yeah. How can you explain it? You wake up one morning, everything's all good, your world's working perfectly, and then all of a sudden someone walks up and just rips the whole thing out from underneath you, and you've got nothing. What's the point in even getting up to go to work? What's the point in even waking up in the morning? That's how you feel. Your heart falls right down to the bottom parts of your legs, and you just turn into an empty shell, and you build a great big enormous wall, so it never ever happens again. It's all I can really say.
With your story, Adam, it feels like you said, like you in your opening, you know, the greatest injustice of all is for a parent to outlive their child.
Well, and that's it. And the whole point of the fact is that I'm not religious. I'm not knocking anybody who is religious, but if there is somebody that powerful, why did he allow a drug-affected person to continue living their life, and a kid who hasn't even had a chance at life to be buried? Never be eat an apple, never to drink a glass of cordial, never to be able to spend $1 at a shop. You know, it's
like you're really
sorry.
No, it's
Sorry.
so good.
Yeah,
It's so good, and I'm a mother as well, and it's something that every parent does not want to have to face ever.
But we face this every day because the government just allows these things to come into the country all the time. And as long as there's people like that out there, kids like mine will never have a chance at life.
Can you just share with me what you think is underneath people's silence? Like, why would people choose silence in a situation like this?
Honestly?
Yes, honestly.
It's easier to walk away. How can another way to explain it is as a homeless bloke sitting on the road. It's easier to walk away than it is to walk up and find out why he's homeless. And that's what I found. As soon as you look for a witness, it's easier for everybody just to turn away and walk away.
Yep. Well,
and that's the problem with society. It's easier just to lower your head and walk away.
well, I suppose that's what we are all about here with the Injustice series is shedding the light on, in fact, it isn't actually easy to be silent. It's actually the hard choice. What's really important is that we can create safe forums for us to speak out. And so I just want to acknowledge that for what you have been through, you've come and shared your story with us today, and that is taking a step forward in breaking the silence and this whole idea that is the better option, is to be silent. We can see the incredible amount of damage that has been done for your life, and also I don't know how, even in terms of the impact of trauma for the lollipop lady and anyone all the other witnesses, to live with that trauma as well as live in silence. These are the kind of things that we're working towards shifting in our society, because it's time's up for that behaviour. So thank you,
That's all
Adam.
right. But that's all right. But don't get me wrong, I don't blame anyone. I don't blame my son. I don't blame the drugs. I don't blame those people. It's the fact that if you are so powerful and you control everything, how could you let that happen?
Yeah, it's understandable that in your situation and situations of such deep grief and injustice, that it makes you question all your beliefs, and also, of course, question the conscience of humanity.
Yeah.
Thank you
That's it.
for stepping forward and for speaking up.
That's
and
good.
I would like to also acknowledge that you are honouring the legacy of your son,
That's all right. Cheers, thank you.
and this is how he lives on.
Yeah.
And you do this for all the other parents who are grieving and who may be in silence as well.
That's it.
Thank you. Sarah, thank you for joining us today. Can you share with us your story of injustice? When Sarah was just 6 years old, she suffered a car accident that would change her life forever. Not one to let setbacks like this affect her, Sarah has continued a proactive lifestyle, including pursuing her passion as an actress and even producing and starring in 8 one-woman shows. In the meantime, money owed to her by the Transport Accident Commission has been locked up in bureaucratic technicalities, where no clear direction or assistance has been offered to help her access money she's been owed these past 13 years.
I haven't been recognised because of my disability. It hasn't been recognised that I should have more access to my money.
So, Sarah, is this money that is a compensation to you?
Yeah, because from the accident that happened 13 odd years ago, I received money from that got transferred into the TAC, and my dad became like my friend in court because I also have money in the Supreme Court, but I can't access that, either sums of money or no one's told me how I can access it.
So, Sarah, has this been for the past 13 years?
13 years.
You haven't had access to the money that you've been compensated with?
Yeah.
So, what would you say, Sarah, is the biggest part of this situation that you're in and should be dealt with first?
It's probably working out how and why I'm not receiving access to the monies in the court, and
Would you say, Sarah, that there's been an assumption made that because you do have a disability, that the result of that is that you're not having access to your money for that reason?
Yeah.
So how does that make you feel?
I feel pretty awful. Really awful.
I think what is also interesting about you, Sarah, is your work, and I feel what's exceptional about you is that you are a professional actor.
Yeah.
With a nationally acclaimed theatre company.
Yeah.
And the work that the company creates and that you do, you're touring internationally every year.
Yeah.
You're going to London in June, yes?
Yes.
You do incredible work.
Yeah.
So as a mouthpiece, as someone who has dedicated their life and their professional service to the community, tell me how injustice might motivate you, or how do you use what's happened or what's happening right now to motivate you?
I guess I use it to make me stronger.
I would like to also acknowledge how you have produced 8 one-woman shows. It's just incredibly commendable about how you're not only strong, but you're providing a place for other people who may have experienced or are experiencing in any way prejudice or intolerance. Well, as a young woman, watch out. You're just getting stronger, which is great. So I look forward to hearing how your situation grows and changes.
Yeah, no, it excites me as well to see what I can come up with.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
State and public trustees, which may be called either depending on the state, have all been caught red-handed misappropriating, that is, dishonestly or unfairly taking or using for their own benefit client funds. We will provide some links in the credit roll to just a few stories. Most of these clients are vulnerable, disabled or disadvantaged, so many do not have the mental capacity to tend to their own financial affairs, at least according to these trustees, who clearly have a vested interest in claiming this. However, it could be argued that many deemed incapable are in fact capable, but this opportunity has been taken away from them. Even though public trustees claim they advocate for teaching clients to manage their own affairs, we have yet to see this. Injustice has already been notified of several cases and also suspect there are many other cases, ranging from minor to serious, that have not been made public. Yet, it is highly suggested people get sound advice from other reputable and professional legal and financial advisors before handing any money to any of these organisations. Injustice would also like to hear from anyone that has encountered any problems with their public trustee, treating them inappropriately or unfairly, whether by discrimination or using or wasting their money. Injustice would like to then link these people to an appropriate law firm that may be able to assist and bring some of these stories out to the public to help warn others. Injustice also firmly believes that there should be a royal commission into these services and their actions. If you would like to be involved in campaigning for this, please make contact. You can contact Injustice on Twitter, Facebook or by email. Adele, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Adele is a paramedic who has returned from a traumatic trip to England, where she illustrates that injustice is not just a problem of Australia. As a traveller away from representation and her own support system, Adele found that it was easier for English reparations systems to look the other way instead of reimbursing injured travellers, and that this has had ongoing implications in her own life. Now recovering from a work injury in London, she is forced to get by with heavy medical bills and is still unable to take on work here in Australia due to her injury.
Recently I came back from working in the UK for one of the ambulance services in London as a paramedic, and in the course of working there I acquired a workplace injury, which is obviously very common in our job, and after that I assumed I would be looked after in a similar fashion to something like work cover. Unfortunately that wasn't the case. And despite my trying to expedite scans and trying to get a definitive diagnosis on my shoulder, I was bullied. I had my pay suspended. I had to wait a total of 18 months before I had surgery, by which time I had been fired, with them citing that my injury had taken too long, despite them refusing to expedite any of my treatments. They've since refused to pay any compensation or relocation costs, which was promised to us when we went over. And since my story and since coming home, I've heard other stories from other people, other Australians in similar situations who feel that they don't have a voice and they're scared to speak up. It seems that there's a very rife bullying culture within this service. It ranges from bullying, email bullying, and my union representation failed to turn up to my appeal, so I therefore had to represent myself, and I'm still paying for the union fees. My union representative even told me in an email to stop mentioning bullying because it wasn't getting me anywhere. And I just feel that, you know, there's so many of us that have gone over there, you know, to do a job where we're helping people. It's destroying our lives. We're going there to save lives and our lives are being destroyed. And to tell you not to talk about bullying and then not represent you fairly, and then to be told that you're going to be taken to a capability hearing and your employment terminated. And then I had subsequent surgery where they found 2 tears and repaired 2 tears in my shoulder. And so now coming back to Australia, so the surgery was in September. They said it could give or take 6 months for that to properly heal, which means that I can't be employed in Melbourne as a paramedic until that's fully healed, which means I've had to go onto the dole, which I find humiliating because I'm obviously qualified to work and I want to be working, but they've left me in such a financial deficit and I'm unable to work in that role because of their negligence and their lack of expediting my treatment.
So Adele, tell me, what do you think is the first thing that could or should be done
so that justice is seen in this situation?
I think at the very least it should elicit change in the way they're treating the Australian paramedics that are going over there, because obviously, you know, the fact that I've recently found out that someone's even been sexually assaulted, like it's not like they've learnt anything from what's happened with me. They told me that I was the first paramedic that was in such a situation. So I guess my main focus would be to elicit change so that other Australians aren't experiencing what I went through. And so I think my biggest thing is that they would do the right thing by other Australians. And then obviously secondary to that would be that they pay me the reimbursements for my flights and my visa, and obviously I'm out of pocket now.
And in your experience, is this discrimination just to Australian
Yes.
paramedics? What about?
One of the union reps actually sent me an email that said, if you were a UK paramedic that had been injured, you would have been redeployed by now. Yeah, I lost my job because they failed to expedite any of the treatment, and I suffered months, like 18 months of pain. On top of the bullying, it was a very isolating time.
So, since this experience and when you've come back to Australia, and when you talk about your union rep, are you feeling like there is a similar culture here in Australia, or are you feeling like you're supported by the paramedics?
I think if it had happened here, given the way WorkCover or WorkSafe works here, I think my treatment would have been expedited. I would have never had to wait in the public system the way I did in the UK. And I would have been back on the road at my job much, much sooner. It's sort of hard, I guess, for the paramedic industry here to support me because I'm functionally not able to fulfil my role as a paramedic on road at the moment. So their hands are tied as to how they can help me because I have to be fully fit. They're not going to put me on the road, well, understandably, and cause more damage to my shoulder. So.
Do you feel this distance, there is a tyranny of distance going on for you dealing with this culture in the UK?
I contacted the chairperson of the service who said that they would look into my situation, and then once they found out that I was back in Australia, never got back to me. Once again, it seems like they believe that they can get away with the way they're treating us and treating us like disposable commodities.
So Adele, tell me now, how do you feel about returning to the paramedic, your role as a paramedic? Do you feel like it's something that you want to keep pursuing?
I'm heartbroken that I can't do it right now. I'm heartbroken that I have to be on the dole when I could be, like, every time I see an ambulance drive past, it guts me a little bit inside because it's a job I want to do, and if I had have had that surgery sooner, this would never have happened. I would never have had the chronic pain, and I'd be doing the job that I'm so passionate about doing.
One thing all three stories have got in particular in common, like I said, it's easier to turn away and walk away.
Yeah.
Well, lucky we're doing things like this to start to highlight how it's not the way that we want the world to work. It's absolutely unconscionable in ways that it's really important that we break the silence and speak out. So thank you, Adele. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Adam. And I do encourage anyone out there, any professional, anyone in an industry where they feel like they could offer some service or assistance, or even share their own story of injustice, or maybe explain things from the top down or from another perspective, to help to shed some light on what this silence is, what this taboo that may be keeping communities as well as hierarchies silent. We're here to hear everything, and we thank you for joining us on the Injustice series.